Okay, I didn't think I would make it today, but here we are. Am I even live in the right channel? Is this me right now? Looks like it. Okay, I didn't think I would make it today. Good, but here we are. Let's mute this. This is somehow a worse setup than before, but I'm just going to go with this now. It's what it is. So, for today's drawing, I have the usual utensils, 3 different pencils, smudging tool, and eraser. Okay, let's go with the usual frame. As wobbly as ever. And the horizon line at the lower third of the picture. The most inconsistent horizon line ever. But it's what it is. Okay, let's go into the sky. Let's start with horizontal lines today. Going right to left and left to right from the top of our frame down towards the horizon, making the space in between the lines larger and larger to have a darker top. Let's go diagonally now. Oh, I don't like those lines. Those are going to be hard to erase out of the sky with the smudging tool. Things are just not working out today. But it's what it is. We just roll with the punches. Just roll with it. Crosshatch the other direction. Just very lightly. Give the sky a value. Going one direction and the other direction. You don't have to go both ways. You can just go from the one side to the other, but I think this makes the lines a little more homogeneous and makes for a little bit of a more even sky in the end. Okay, vertical lines at the very top, so that the top is going to be even darker. I think you can't even see this with how bad my camera is. Or you can barely see it. I'll just hurry up so that you can see something. Once I use the darker pencils, you're going to see what I do. Okay, use the smudging tool and go from the very left to the very right. From the top of the drawing towards the horizon and blend all those lines. Try to make them invisible But don't get upset if they don't disappear completely. It's a learning experience. I'm going to someday figure out how to make this completely smooth. But for now, I'll just go with this, with a non-smooth sky. A sky that has lines in it. An imperfect sky, just as everything is imperfect. Okay, with the HB pencil, I just draw in a wedge right here. Some land at the horizon. And there's going to be no grading in value here. The mist that is in the distance lets us not see any detail here. It's just this piece of land. Get it equally gray everywhere. Right here in this smaller area, I can actually make the lines disappear. It's way easier with the smaller area. Easier than in the big sky. All right. Nice and even. Roundabout even. This is far from nice and even here. What am I saying? It's just about even, yeah. That's how you could describe it. I've got some fingerprints in here as well, in the sky. But it's what it is. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to see some branches of a tree covering almost the entire area of the sky. So what I'll do is just go into the sky and make it gray. Make it even more gray, I should say. Leave some areas where you can see through the branches and leaves. But the trunk of the tree is going to be behind us, so we're not going to see it. We're just going to see the branches go in from the top. So this area is going to be darker than the sky because it's all leaves and branches. Not even taking care about giving it any specific shape right here. The more random it is, the better. Because the tree the way it grows, it has a system to it, but it also just looks random. Okay. Now this is the very approximate shape. And now we go in with very flat horizontal U shapes. Something poking out here and there. But those are the volumes of the leaves. Just indicate them very roughly. Don't think about it too much. The more you think, the less natural it's going to look. Just those darker areas, slightly bent. Each one of those is a bunch of leaves. Okay, we're even darker in the top right because there are many layers of volumes behind each other, because it's more to the center of the tree. Okay. Now going up and down, still creating U shapes. I create another layer of volumes. Only in the top right, because as I just said, that's where a couple of layers lay on top of each other, behind and in front of each other. And I want to create this illusion of those volumes overlapping. Oh, the camera is shaking. Oh boy. But I think you can see what I'm doing here once my hand doesn't cover the sheet of paper. So you can see the first layer, and down here in the top right, where I went up and down, the second layer. Okay, before we go into the last detail of the tree, we're going to just draw in some branches that come down from up here. Using the 3B pencil, otherwise I wouldn't be able to see them. Just some squiggly lines. Some of them end right in here within the volume, and they overlap like so, coming down here like so. Have some bifurcations. Some of them go up again, or at least it looks like they do, because it's a three-dimensional thing, this tree. And so on the two-dimensional plane of my sheet of paper, things may look like they go up when they just go further away or down. Okay, those are a lot of branches, but that's going to be, it's just going to make it look nice and detailed. Okay, let's go ahead and already give them a dynamic. The lines have a certain dynamic that makes it look like the branches are thicker in the areas where they are closer to the trunk. I'm trying to still give them a squiggly character. Often when I go over the branches again, I make the mistake of just flattening them out, flattening the lines, robbing the line of their character, and it makes them look boring. But I want them to have bumps and curves and be a little bit jagged. So those branches look like they grow in all sorts of directions. And they have corners and bends. Just like that. Let's give this another bifurcation. This is a very long one that doesn't have a bifurcation. Looks very unnatural to me. Once the branch has a certain length or in certain intervals, there are going to be bifurcations. Okay. On to the next one. In the video I can see that now you're seeing what I'm doing. I have to use darker values, maybe even for the sky, so that you can see what I do in there. Make everything darker in the future, maybe. Maybe it's the stream will benefit from it and everything will be more visible if I draw everything just a bit darker. I want you to be able to see what I do here after all. Okay, make the ends very squiggly. All right, now make them very thin in the end. Okay, now for the leaves. In those darker areas that we created before, we're going to draw even smaller U shapes now. And just as before, go with the flow. Don't overthink it. Try to make it as random as possible. Every little U shape is the indication of a leaf. This is going to make it look like there are a lot of leaves in the tree. It's the middle of summer and it's very lush. The tree is trying to benefit from every sun ray, every ray of sunlight it can get. Now, giving larger areas a structure always takes a while. It's a good practice in patience. But in the end, once you see how it comes all together, I always think it's worth it. And sometimes it doesn't come out the way you wanted to, or you imagined it in the first place. But then you'll have learned something from it. You know how to not do it the next time. And maybe you even have an idea what you can do differently the next time you do it, so the outcome is more like what you desire. Just like that. I'm using those darker areas that I created before as orientation. On the down and right side of them, I'm making those leaf shapes to make it look like the light comes from the top left. And so there's a congruent light source, so the shadows are cohesive and congruent. Every once in a while you see the darker part of a leaf that's in a brighter area, just like here, maybe. So it's not completely impossible for there to be darker areas in the larger bright areas. But those darker leaves are generally going to be at the bottom right of the darker areas that we created before. More than 50% done. Just be patient here. It's a large area, and the tip of the pencil is rather small. Just have a look at it every once in a while and see the progress you've made. See it all come together. And admire the nice structure that you're giving it. It's all just zigzag lines that are slightly curved. But in the end, it's going to look like they are leaves on a tree. And I think that's very fascinating. That the human brain puts together these structures and interprets them. That way we don't have to draw everything exactly as it is in nature. We can just approximate them. And our brain is going to tell us, yep, that's a tree. With almost everything else as well. Everything we see, everything we touch, everything we hear. Our brain interprets it and never lets the pure signal through. It's always somehow altered in our perception. Almost done now. Just some more. Okay. Now, after I've done this, I always like to go in with just some single individual leaves, just like I indicated here. That makes it look like you paid attention to every single leaf and you drew every leaf like it was in your reference. Although I'm not even drawing this from reference. I've just seen it and incorporated it in my drawing routine. And it makes it look like you gave it so much detail. And you spent so much time observing. When it's just you going over it, just making a couple extra separate lines every now and again, every here and there. Sometimes a couple more lines, 2 or 3, like here, like here, like here, like here. Gives the illusion of great detail. Okay. Now you can add some more branches that stick out in those brighter areas where you can see them against the sky. I'm not going to add too much now though, because I've got a lot of branches going on already. Maybe the odd bifurcation here and there towards the very end. But that's it. Okay. Now I want to have a lake down here. For this, I come in from both sides of the frame with my HB pencil and create those horizontal lines. I want to leave a blank area here where the sun reflects in the water. And I want a bright shoreline to separate the land from the lake. Right here at the horizon, there's no reflection of the sunlight, so we can see the water right here, so it has a darker value than the reflection. Okay, going down all the way and down here we don't have a reflection either. Maybe the reflection goes up to this point right here. So we just fill in our light gray value down here. Okay. For the surface of the water, you don't have to be precise at all in making it the same value. In fact, if you leave brighter areas and darker areas, it's going to look like the surface of the water is more calm in certain areas and it's windy in other areas where the surface is more uneven. Okay, I have a nice area of reflection of the sunlight. Now I just create those darker areas. Okay, just like so. A large darker area over here. All horizontal lines. Maybe the horizon, let's separate it from the sky. So the darker the horizon is, the better it is visible against the sky. I'm making it rather uneven now. It's not a perfect horizon. But it's a horizon, nonetheless. Okay, just darker there, and a little darker here. Now, since we're standing at the shore, the waves down here appear larger than in the background. So I'll just take the very pointy tip of the pencil and try to make very straight horizontal lines back here. Some of them go into the reflection. They're not everywhere. You don't see the waves everywhere, although they are across the entire surface. In many parts you don't see them. Okay. Those are the waves in the distance. Maybe a couple more over here. Now, as we get closer to where we stand, we can see a larger wave. So I hold the pencil at an angle, a very sharp angle, to create a rather thick line, and the line should have a dynamic, being wider and thinner, so it looks like there are several waves next to each other. Try to make them as horizontal as possible. And don't draw them everywhere. There are areas on the surface where you don't see any waves. Okay. Now make the lines wider and wider as you approach the bottom, and make them darker even. I'll use the 3B pencil down here. That doesn't have a perfect surface for making wide lines right now, but it's going to have one after I drew a couple of lines here. Okay. I'm making those thicker and thicker down here. Sometimes you get a nice dynamic of the line just with the first line that you draw, and you want to make it even more perfect, but by going over it you destroy what you had. So learning to draw is not only learning to make something more and more perfect, it's also about learning when you can't add anything anymore to what you did. And I think that's a very valuable lesson. We mostly think that the more we work on a line, the better it is going to look. But sometimes, or most of the time, I think even, the more pure we leave the first line, the better it is going to look. Okay, that concludes today's drawing. I'm going to give it a frame now. Should I give it a frame? Yeah, let's give it a frame. Wait, clean up the edges before I do that. Is the camera shaking a lot? Yeah, I guess so. Oh well. Okay. Pick up the residue. All right. Now let's go for the frame. The hard one up here, the one that I don't see. Oh, like this I can actually see where I'm drawing. Oh, that's good. Okay. Stop right here. And now go down here. All right. Let's sign it. Almost done now. I'm being a little more quiet because I don't know what to say while I do this. Okay, last level of bifurcation. Make some noises while you do it. Okay. All right. Thank you for joining me. I hope you had fun. I hope you were maybe entertained. Maybe you learned something. And I hope to see you in the next one. Take care and bye-bye. I hope you had fun. I hope you were maybe entertained. Maybe you learned something. And